My name is Neill. I have been attending Rocky Peak for about a year and a half. I work for a production doing IT for The Office, and I personally love to serve. Growing up with my parents was a true blessing. They tried to open my avenues to everything, whether it was sports or playing music, schoolwork, college. They were always trying to get me into the avenue that I excelled best in. I just had a really good childhood. My sister is Kellyanne. Growing up, we actually butted heads quite a bit. She was my older sister and I had a problem with authority. But she has always been there to support me, even though at times I didn't see it as that. The only time that I had going to church growing up was really in elementary school and middle school. I didn't really find any friendship there, so I kind of drew away from the Lord. When I first was in high school, I was doing very well, and I was connecting with teachers and some of the good kids at school, but I was definitely an overweight kid in school, and kids would pick on me for it. I would answer that with aggression, and I would show them exactly what my weight could do. I had gone to therapy a couple of times. Even though the therapy helped me get through a lot of my aggression issues, I still had this hole inside of me that I was trying to fill. I started filling it with friends and the people around me. And in order to fit in with those friends, I had to do what they did. And that also meant drinking and using drugs. But I did that through high school and into college, and I was definitely burning the candle at both ends. In those years, I thought that seeking pleasure was my purpose in life, that getting to the end of the week and having fun was exactly what I was living for. I was walking through life like everything was cupcakes and rainbows, that things were all good, but really deep down it wasn't. I was still trying to find something to fill this hole inside me. And then the pandemic came. I know that the pandemic is terrible on many levels, but for me it allowed me to stay home and drink anytime I wanted. At one point I was drinking a bottle and a half of whiskey a day. I definitely was not living a good life. I found myself isolated, and it took me away from all my friendships. One early morning, it was about 1 a.m., and I was obscenely drunk, and I started crying. I felt that there was no way out, that everything that I had done in my life was pointless. That really made me feel like I had hit my bottom, that I had come to a point where there was no hope in life, that what had originally given me pleasure had now trapped me. And then I realized that I couldn't do it on my own. And so the first time since middle school, I had said a prayer. God, I am done with this, whatever it takes, please. I prayed because I had nothing else I could do. It was at that point that I realized that I was lying to essentially everybody in my life about my drinking. So I called the one person that I knew would understand. I called my father, and I told him everything. True to his nature, my father let me talk and listened, and then told me that I needed to stop. I tried. I told myself that night that I would not drink again, until it was the next morning when I started to have those uncontrollable shakes again. I knew I had a little bit left in my bottle of whiskey, and so I drank it. And it was on the way to work that I started to have the uncontrollable shakes again without any whiskey around me. So instead of going to work, I checked myself into the hospital. As I was laying there in the hospital bed, I look up on the ceiling and I see an AA coin. I kept looking up and down at it and saying, no, that's not something I need to do. I don't know who put that there, but it was something that started me down a path. And I went to my first AA meeting, which was a book study. The topic of the book at that time was step number 2, which was realizing that only a power greater than ourselves could cure us of this insanity. When I had realized that I needed to find a higher power, that I couldn't do this alone, I went to a brother in AA that had 15 years of sobriety, asked him, how can I believe in God? I'm an engineer, and I believe that if you can't qualify or quantify something, then how could it exist? He looked me straight in the eye and said, well, Chris, God is the ultimate engineer. God made right angles. God created all of this. Look at what he's done. And that was the mustard seed that I needed. I called the one person in my life that I knew was very God-centered, and that was my sister. I still remember the phone conversation that we had where it was, hey, Kelly, I need to know more about this God person and what he can do for me. She offered to come sit down with me at the church of Rocky Peak. On the first Sunday that I had gone, the topic was Jesus is love, and Jesus loves you. I started to cry Because for somebody like me who tried crazy things just to be accepted, here's Jesus that loves me unconditionally. It was a couple of months later that I finally felt ready to give my life to Christ. And I prayed with my sister in the solar parking lot at Rocky Peak. Jesus, I give my life to thee. It was one of those moments with my sister that I will forever cherish. As I embraced my sister, she and I cried together, and I realized that it was going to be okay. What really compelled me to give my life to Jesus was the fact that he was even willing to help somebody like me. No matter what I do, and no matter what I've done, Jesus loves me. I discovered that serving was really a pathway to God for me. Being able to help somebody that couldn't do something for themselves really got me out of myself. And I was finally able to feel that sense of purpose, that sense of comfort, that joy. Currently, God is still working in my life. I'm learning to love better, learning to serve better. There are so many avenues from which he's doing that. A lot of the books that I have been reading, the sermons that I hear at church on Sundays, the examples that I see at CR, the examples that I see at Life Group. The true change is still happening, but I'm putting my trust in Jesus. Putting my trust in the Lord has taken so much weight off of my shoulders. I was carrying a bag of bricks and I put it down. And Jesus picked it up.